Welcome to Film Bites, the podcast where a lad and his dad talk about films they've just watched.
Breaking Infinity. Liam is a scientific researcher who has been unstuck in time. As his jumps through time get more extreme, he is guided to the future by a mysterious old man where he witnesses the end of the world that he may have caused. What do you think, Jack?
Well, this was quite a good one, wasn't it? I think that in terms of Breaking Infinity, at least it's a movie that actually follows the title. There's a lot of cinematography that I quite liked in this movie. There was very nice touches with a lot of the music and score. The editing was on point with particular aspects of what makes you think, hang on, is this real or is it not real? Are we going back? Are we going forward? It twists with the mind, and it's a non-linear narrative that really does flourish here. I think that with lots of non-linear narratives, you can get lost. It happens often. I think even with movies that are well loved, you have that issue. But with this one, it was very nice because it was made very clear from the get-go, something ain't right. I mean, it's a very nice touch scene, bandage off, bandage on, to kind of convey, right, we've got different settings. Same with the lighting. If we go back, warm ambient lighting because it shows a time which was much easier, and a bleak future with the kind of setting of what happens. It is more grey, it's dismal, because the future is something that we can't really see with fondness at the moment. It's something that is completely off at the moment with everything that's going on in the movie.
I think this is one of those clever British sci-fi movies that punches well above its weight. It's got very minimal budget.
But does really well with its budget as well. Extremely
well. It's one of those things that you're quite happy that you're not worried about all the kind of Hollywoodisms and all that.
Yeah.
You're into the plot very, very quickly. As you said, it's a bit of one of those mind-bendy type films, but you're happy to spend the time because, number one, the acting performances are really on point. It's well thought out. And whilst it's set in one location, it makes good use of its setting. It's one of those imaginative pieces that just draws you in. So you've actually got the questioning element. You're puzzled by what's going on, but you kind of think you know what's going on, and then it manages to subvert that on a number of different times. The title itself is perfect for what the film sets out to achieve.
Entirely so.
And the special effects that are in it are very clever.
Because it's quite minimal, and I find that with the editing in the lab particularly, they don't have to go crazy. And what they do reminds me a bit of what they did with Terminator.
Yes.
Which, if you think about it, Terminator at the time, that was really good effects. Now, it's simple, but it gets the idea across. Something with time, quantum subspace is changing with electromagnetic and static and everything that's going off. And that was fair. It was very well done, and it was portrayed very easily as well. And it did its job incredibly well. Simple, but so effective.
Yeah.
There was one big effect, of course. We won't mention it for obvious reasons, but the big effect actually was done very well as well.
Yeah.
They do minimal and big separately. They do the minimal stuff, I think, better because they don't have to show the big stuff as much. And they make that a point, and I respect that as well.
I think it harked back to the classics of things like the Quatermass experiment and stuff like that, in the way that it was this kind of semi-paranoid environment. You view it from his eyes for a lot of it, trying to unravel the understanding of what's going on. And you have these very snappy cuts of dialogue as well, which eventually, as you get towards the final acts of the film, all join together really quite beautifully. I think the director is Mariana Dean, and I think she's done a terrific job in keeping all of this together.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel at any point that we were totally confused or baffled by it. We wanted to understand where this film was going to take us. And I think the writer David Trotty has delivered a script that's really, really good, that punches well above the budget that this film has. Acting performances, I think Johnny Phillips's role, very, very good, very strong. The nurse that we see, Zoe Cunningham, again, very, very good. Initially, I thought she was going to be quite annoying.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think there was a few scenes where you thought, right, we've got a character that pulls the main character back. Right, let's go with that.
But as the film developed, so did her character.
Yes.
And I think that bounced off each other really, really well. Now, this is a film that I think is available on the streaming platforms now.
Oh, yeah.
And I certainly think that this is well worth your time. It's a fairly short picture. It's only about 87 minutes, I think, something like that. But it puts an awful lot into that one sort of strand of film. And I think that it really did just genuinely blow me away, to be honest with you, for such a fringe, short, low-budget feature. It does exactly what British sci-fi does so well. What did you think?
Completely agree. I think it does confusing but simple. And that is what I find incredibly clever. They don't have to go with almost like this vertigo or this inception craziness of Hollywood where it has to be mind-bending with all this world building, and then all of a sudden everything falls and collapses in on itself and basically everything starts again. It's very much everything that's in the title. The title says it, you explore it, and I don't think at one point we looked at each other and went, oh, I don't get it. We actually, I think both of us really was wanting to see where it goes. We were engaged with the characters. I quite like the interactions between certain characters' dialogue as well, because it creates that sense that whilst our main protagonist doesn't remember much, he still has these interactions because he's still remembering it. He's going back through his mind. So I think that a lot of this movie just felt incredibly strong. There were moments where you were confused, but you were never lost. And everything was there. It was all packaged up in a 1 hour and 26 minute long movie. It's a short story. It feels like its own classic story whilst also borrowing things, but not massively. I think when you realise what the plot is at the start, you think, okay, maybe this could be stereotypical, but actually no. It's not so much the topic of it's the end of the world. It's more, how do we get to that point? Where do our characters go in that particular situation? It's not a story focused on the world ending, it's a story focused on the characters.
Yes.
Which is nice, because we've seen so many movies that explore the end of the world, but never so much the characters. The characters come secondary. What was in this was very much the characters come first, and I quite like that.
So, Breaking Infinity, it's actually a little bit of a gem, this one, and I can heartily recommend that you do download this one from one of the streaming services and enjoy a good night of entertainment.
If you've enjoyed our podcast, please consider liking and subscribing for future episodes. Smash the like notification bell if you're on YouTube. Your support means the world to us. Please help us spread the word to grow the podcast. Until we meet again, film biters, we'll be watching. Will you?